uh, Cloud Infrastructure and Services. This session is about EBS, EFS and S3 and S3-GLACIERs. Aim of this session to familiarize the students with the basic concepts of elastic file system, S3, S3-GLACIERs and CloudFront. What is EBS, Elastic Block Store? Is in AWS, Amazon Elastic Block Store is easy to use, scalable, high performance block storage services designed for EC2. Okay, what is EC2? Again, it is just a storage process where the data will be stored in the cloud in the Amazon Web Services. Amazon EBS allows you to create storage volumes and attach them to AWS EC2 instance. Once attached, you can create a file system on top of the volume, run the database, use them in any other way would you like to use the block storage. So the EBS volumes can be increased dynamically as the data increases. Amazon EBS volumes are placed in a specific availability zone where they are automatically replicated to protect your from the failure of single component. So they will be taking the replicates and storing the data in multiple available zones so that the data failure or the data loss will not be happening. So if you see the diagram, this is the basic block diagram of EC2 where Amazon Elastic Block Store. It is basically of two types. One is SSD and another one is HDD database. In the SSD, the customer or the developer can choose which database and what they want to use and what is the amount of data storage they require. Amazon Elastic File System provides simple, scalable, fully managed NSF file system for the Amazon Cloud Services on-premises resource. So what do you mean by fully managed is, again, it is simple and scalable. Whenever they want to increase the data, they can be increasing, or if they think that this data is not required, they can delete the data or they can remove the data, and the storage can be reduced also. You can pay only for the storage used for file system, and there is no minimum fee or setup cost. So as a customer, we are free to choose, as a developer or Amazon AWS developer, we are free to choose the files, minimum file or the cost, whatever we want. You can access the AWS EFS file system concurrently from multiple NFS client. So applicant, the scalable beyond the connection, can access the file system. So how it works, multiple EC2 instance access the EFS file system, so that configures with the standard storage classes from multiple available zones in AWS region. So in the AWS, the VPC, we call it as virtual private cloud, is available in 3 zones. As the already previous sessions, it will be already explained availability zones, what is availability zones and how availability zones works. Because of the file system uses standard storage classes, they mount large target created by the availability zone. One of the availability zone has to be 2 subnets. So if you see the diagram, the availability zones will be of 3 locations or 3 services, where you can see US West 2A, US West 2B and US West 2C. So it will be 3 availability zones based upon the place where you access and the place where you want to store the data. The availability zones will be decided. So elastic file system, again, dynamic elasticity, fully managed and scalable performance. In the dynamic elasticity, the file storage capacity can be grown up or down, added or removed without any disturbance in the application. You can create the file system and start adding the files, no need to provision any in advance. So there is no need of any telling in advance or no need to buy any data in advance. So whenever the data increases in the file system, automatically the data will be increasing. The size of the file system will be increasing. Fully managed, Amazon EFS is fully managed service provided shared file system for general purpose workloads. And scalable performance, AWS EFS is designed to provide throughput IOP, that is input and output operations per second. So it will be most efficient, it will be most active. EFS supports the performance of 10 GB per second. Okay. So next one is the subdivision of EFS, that is S3, simple storage services. Okay. So whatever the data we want, it is a virtual database kind of. So whatever data we want, we will be storing in the virtual database. So S3 is the naming convention which is used in the AWS. S3 is an object stored services that offers industry leading scalable data availability, security and performance. S3 to store, retrieve and any amount of data at any time from anywhere. S3 storage data as an object within the bucket. What do you mean by bucket? Again, the bucket is the place where the data are stored in the form of buckets to in a large database. An object consists of a file, optionally any metadata that describes the file. So buckets are the containers for object. You can have one or more buckets. For each bucket you can control access it, who can create it, delete it and list the objects in the bucket. So these are the some of the features which is available in the Amazon S3 services. Okay. What is an Amazon S3 bucket? Again, S3 is an Amazon two primary entity called bucket and object. Objects are stored inside the buckets. Also it does have a flat hierarchy, not like one you would find in the file system. And again, the S3, the data will be stored in the form of buckets in the database, so that whenever any data loss will not happen. Even if you want to access, the accessing point will be referred from the bucket name or the object name. The buckets are easily accessed from anywhere in the world, making it simple store, access, manage data on the cloud. S3 also provides a number of features that makes it easy to manage, organize data such as versioning, lifecycle policy and access control. Okay. Advantages of S3, as we know, it can be accessed from anywhere, disaster recovery, backup archive and scalable on demand. So these are some of the advantages of S3 services, and by default in a free tier Amazon S3 provides 5 GB of data, which can be increased on a pay on you go service based. So beyond the 5 GB, if whatever the requirement of your application, for that the person need to pay and you can use whenever it is required without any prerequisite or without any advanced informations. S3-GLACIER, again it is a secure and durable service for low cost data archiving for long time backup. So S3 we will be using for the application work on a day-to-day process, whereas S3-GLACIER, where you want to store the data for long term and it is considered as a backup. So what is the difference between S3 and S3-GLACIER? S3 is an often accessible, whereas in S3-GLACIER we don't call the data in often, we store it as a backup process. So what is the advantage of that? You can store the data cost effectively, months, years or even decades. S3-GLACIER helps you to offload the administrative burdens of operating systems, scalables to storage. You don't have often to worry about the capacity planning, hardware provisioning or replicating of the data. Sorry. Yeah. S3 also provides 3 Amazon S3-GLACIER storage classes. Again, S3-GLACIER is also have 3 types. One is instant retrieval, flexible retrieval and deep archive. So what is instant retrieval is archiving the data in a rarely accessed and requires milliseconds to retrieve. Okay. So whenever we instantly want to retrieve, we will store in the process of instant retrieval. Flexible retrieval uses the archive where the portion of data might be retrieved in minutes. Data stored in the flexible retrieval storage class can be accessed in a little of 1 to 5 minutes by using expedited retrieval. you can also request a free bulk retrieval up to 5 to 12 hours. So when you want to retrieve the data within 1 or 5 minutes, you are supposed to pay for it. And if you don't want to pay, and there is no urgency in retrieving the data, you can anyhow the data is secure. If you want to retrieve in without any urgency or without any fast of time, you can retrieve with at free of cost for 5 to 12 hours. S3-GLACIER deep archive rarely need to store the access. S3 deep storage class have default retrieval time of 12 hours. So whenever you store the data, if you want to retrieve the data, for retrieving the data for default, it will be taking 12 hours of time. Archiving objects on S3-GLACIER. So all the data will be stored in the form of buckets in the different types of glaciers: instant, flexible, and deep archive. What is vault of S3-GLACIER? Again, vault is a container for storing archives. When you create a vault, you can specify the vault name, AWS region in which you want to create the vault. For a list of AWS regions supports the S3-GLACIER. Archiving and vault in AWS Glacier. So whenever you want to store a secret data, we will create a vault, right? Vault is like we will keep a secret place inside the database. So which we don't want to retrieving in the often, or we want it to be a secret kept in the database. So we will be using Glacier Vault. Archiving the vault are at the core of the Glacier data model. S3-GLACIER, the actual data is stored in the archives. You can store any type of data in an archive, such as image, video, audio, or documents. So we can store any type of data. There are two ways to upload the file archive. You can directly upload a single file, creating an archive, or you can create a zip file, multiple files upload in the single archive. Following are some of the important points about the archives. Maximum size of single archive is 40 terabyte. Unlimited number of archives can be created. Virtually unlimited data can be stored in S3-GLACIER. An archive cannot be updated after creation. So once the archive is created, you cannot update it, but you can keep on adding the number of glaciers or number of archives you want. So single archive is of 40 terabyte. So for an example, my 40 terabyte is completing. I cannot extend the same archive to 50 terabyte. I will be buying one more archive which is of one more, whatever the size you want. And again, 40 terabyte is the maximum limit. It is not the minimum limit. So whenever I want to store a data of 10 MB or 1 GB, I will be paying only for 1 GB. When it reaches to 40 GB, it will go to the next archive, but again it will not buy the 40 terabyte, it will buy whatever the data you store, and you need to pay for the data whatever you need to store. Vault, we have stored the data in the archives, but where it will be archived with storage or grouped. That is where vault comes into the play. A vault are containers where you can store multiple archives. 1000 vaults are allowed for a single AWS account. So I have an AWS account, I can create 1000 vaults. You can set every vault with access policy to make it available or deny to the user. So I can decide as a developer or the owner of the AWS account, I can decide to which persons or to customize to that our archives or the data vault can be shared or unshared, can available or deny the users. You can use AWS SDKs to do variety of vault operations like creating, deleting, lock, list vault, tag vaults. Some interesting facts about Amazon glaciers. Unlimited amount of data can be stored in the glacier. Glacier provides average annual durability of 99%, so which refers to there is no data loss at all. While the data is uploading in the glacier, it stores the data across multiple availability zones before it confirms the successful upload. Once one can enjoy the glacier solution at the cost of 0.007 per GB per month. So if you are using, I am using just 1 GB for a month, I will be paying only $0.007. Again, I just want to recollect the point. This is a glacier, this is not the S3 bucket. So what do I mean by glacier? Again, it is just a kind of backup. So that only, for that only the cost is so low. If you are using S3, if you are using S3 for a day-to-day application, or the data is accessed every day or every minute, then the cost will be differing. This is only for backupping of data. Data stored in a Amazon Glacier is immutable and encrypted at rest by default. AWS CloudFront is a web service that speeds up distribution of your static and dynamic web content such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, image files to your users. So whenever I develop an application, I host the application, the HTML, CSS, JavaScript or the supporting documents with the use of CloudFront, it is distributed fast so that the access time will be very less. CloudFront delivers you your content through a worldwide network of data centers called edge locations. How it works? If the content is ready, is already in the edge location with lowest latency, CloudFront delivers it immediately. If the content is not at the edge location, CloudFront retrieves it from the origin that you have defined, such as S3 bucket, a media package channel or a HTTP server, for an example a web server that you have identified as a source for the definitive version of the content. So whenever if it is available in the nearby location, it will be retrieving and it will be giving it immediately, or else if the edge location is not to the nearest location, then it will be retrieving from the original source where the S3 bucket is stored, and it will be passing the information and we will be retrieving the data. CloudFront is used by business of all sizes, including startup, mid-size firms, large scale enterprise, and it can help the cost delivery network, digital assets management, DAM system. This is just basic flowchart of AWS CloudFront, where we will be adding the CloudFront works, data transfer of content, edge location from cache, and we will be having if the cache is not there, we will be retrieving it from the original location, CloudFront edge location, and we will be giving it to the end user. Two main components of CloudFront. CloudFront content delivery on AWS CloudFront is a web service that speeds up content delivery or distribution by caching your content on global network for services, provided access to the end user with low latency and high throughput. CloudFront makes it easy for developers to quick deliver static and dynamic web content. So the basic advantage, the main component of CloudFront is it is used to deliver the static and dynamic web content without any worrying of performance or scalability. Dynamic content caching enables faster performance by using cached data from multiple locations around the world. It speeds up the delivery of dynamic and static content such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript files to user from the origin server. Dynamic content caching uses methods such as AI machine learning algorithm to adaptively store frequently requesting content on edge for faster response on time. Benefits of AWS CloudFront. Again, as I already mentioned, the latency, the retrieval of data will be very fast, and it is used for supporting of static and dynamic web content. Provides a powerful content delivery network which can reduce latency for users through the globe to improve the user experience. And the scalable is also a major architectural revision or additional server cost. CloudFront supports multiple technologies like CMS, mobile applications, streaming media services. So it provides a unified platform for managing different types of contents. Thank you.